Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. My name is Craig, and I learned early in life that nothing worth keeping comes easy. I grew up in Ohio. When I turned 18, I enlisted in the Navy as an electrician. The work was demanding, but it gave me structure and a reason to push through hard days. By the time I left the service at 25, I had discipline burned into my bones. When I settled in Phoenix, I started small, installing solar panels out of a rented van with equipment borrowed from an old shipmate. It wasn't glamorous, but I knew my craft, and I outworked everyone. I wasn't rich, but I had stability, and for a man who grew up with nothing, that was gold. It was during a hospital fundraiser that I met Cathy. She was a surgical nurse helping coordinate the event, and I was there to install solar canopies in the parking lot. She had an easy smile and a confidence that caught me off guard. We talked during a break, and it turned into dinner a week later. What drew me in wasn't just that she was attractive, it was that she understood long hours and exhaustion. She didn't complain when I cut a date short because of a night call for a client. She'd say, "That's what building something looks like, isn't it?" Over 2 years, Cathy and I built a rhythm that felt solid. She worked nights sometimes, and I worked weekends, but we met in the middle. When I proposed at South Mountain, she said yes without hesitation. For a man like me, who planned every step of his life, that moment felt like I finally had the missing piece. While Cathy threw herself into wedding preparations, venues, dress fittings, floral arrangements, I was working on something she didn't know about. I wanted the next 30 years to start with a foundation she couldn't see coming. 6 months before our wedding date, I bought a neglected warehouse on the edge of downtown Phoenix. It was nothing impressive when I signed the papers, but I didn't buy it for what it was. I bought it for what it could be. My idea was simple: turn it into a loft that combined everything Cathy ever said she wanted. I paid cash and kept the deed in a safe. Cathy didn't know. Later, I pulled Martin, my best friend, in to help with the heavy work at night. I wasn't just building a home. I was setting up the life Cathy kept saying she dreamed of. The plan was to hand her the keys after the honeymoon. Imagine the look on her face when she realized we weren't going back to the cramped apartment. At that point, all I needed was to get through the wedding. 3 weeks before the wedding, Cathy came home buzzing with energy. She dropped her purse on the counter, practically bouncing as she pulled out her phone. "You won't believe this," she said. "Lauren planned the most insane bachelorette trip. 5 days in Vegas, suite at the Venetian, pool parties, shows, everything." I leaned against the counter, watching her swipe through screenshots: hotel bookings, dinner reservations, VIP wristbands. The total cost flashed in one of the images: $3,400 a person. "That's a lot of money for a girls' trip," I said. She laughed it off. "It's once in a lifetime. Besides, Lauren covered the suite. We just split the rest. It'll be me, Lauren, Poppy, Heather, and Rachel. All girls. No drama." I nodded slowly. Cathy had worked long hours at the hospital and spent weekends buried in wedding checklists. If anyone deserved a break, it was her. But still, something about her excitement didn't sit right. Over the next week, small things started to pile up. Shopping bags filled the closet: dresses, heels, jewelry. I'd never seen her buy that much at once. One night, I asked, "What's with all the outfits? You're only gone 5 days." She shrugged. "You know how it is. Vegas has a different vibe. I just want to look good, that's all." But these weren't the kind of clothes she wore around me. They weren't girls' night dresses. They were meant for an audience. Then came the phone habits. She'd always been open with her phone, scrolling Instagram beside me, showing me memes. Suddenly, she started keeping it face down on the table. Calls came in late at night, and she'd step into the other room. "Just Lauren, working out details," she'd explain. I didn't push. I told myself I trusted her. The morning of the trip, I drove her to the airport. She kissed me before walking into the terminal. "Don't miss me too much," she teased. "It's only 5 days." I smiled, waved her off, and told her to have fun. At the time, I didn't know that Vegas would blow everything apart. The first day, her posts looked exactly like what she promised. Group shots by the pool, selfies with neon lights behind them, standard girls' trip material. I liked a few, scrolled past, and went back to work. But on the second night, one picture stopped me cold. Cathy and her friends were at a rooftop bar, glasses raised. Off to the edge of the frame, half cropped out, was an arm, tattooed. A black and red phoenix with wings wrapping around the wrist. I knew that tattoo. It belonged to Tyler Warner, Cathy's ex. The same Tyler her brother Jonathan once called a waste of skin. The same one Cathy had sworn she was done with forever. I checked his social media, public as always. His most recent story was a selfie taken at that same rooftop bar, time-stamped 10 minutes before Cathy's post. He captioned it, "Vegas nights? Nothing better." At first, I tried to rationalize it. Vegas was crowded, right? Maybe he just happened to be there. But coincidence didn't explain why his arm was practically in her picture. I dug deeper. Tyler had posted from the Bellagio fountains, the same night Cathy tagged herself at the same spot with her friends. Later, he uploaded a short clip of a restaurant table, clinking glasses. Cathy's voice was in the background, laughing. I leaned back in my chair. I wasn't done. I called the restaurant from one of the posts, pretending to confirm a reservation under Lauren's name. The hostess didn't hesitate. "Party of 6, yes. Lauren Michaels plus guests. They're seated now." "Was a Tyler Warner one of the names?" I asked. "Yes, sir. He checked in with them." That ended any doubt. Cathy hadn't gone to Vegas with just her friends. She'd gone there with her ex, and she'd lied to everyone about it. The moment I hung up the phone with the restaurant, my mind was already made up. I wasn't going to wait around for excuses or half-truths. I'd spent too many years planning, saving, and building to let someone walk all over it. That night, I called Martin. "I need you in the truck at my place at 6 in the morning. No questions." When he showed up, I told him everything while we packed. We moved fast: clothes, tools, personal files, the safe with the deed to the loft. By noon, my name was off the apartment lease, my portion of the rent was prepaid, and Cathy's things were left neatly where they belonged. "Where are you going to stay?" Martin asked, loading the last box. I just handed him the keys to the warehouse loft. "Here." The place wasn't fully decorated yet, but it was livable. Next, I froze the joint account. Cathy wasn't draining my savings while parading around Vegas with Tyler. Then I sat down and wrote a short, direct email to her family. I attached the screenshots, the timestamps, and a note that said, "I'm ending the engagement. Cathy told us all she was on a girls' trip. Tyler Warner has been with her in Vegas the entire time. I've attached proof. I won't be moving forward with the wedding. Craig." At 11 that night, Jonathan called. His voice was sharp. "Craig, I don't know what to say. She swore she cut ties with him years ago." "I believe that too," I replied. By the time Cathy's plane landed on Sunday, she had no idea her world had already collapsed. At 11:14 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Craig? Oh my God, where's all your stuff? Did we get robbed?" I kept my voice calm. "Check your messages. Everything you need to know is there." There was silence. Then her voice cracked. "Wait, you told my family? Why would you do that?" "Because they deserve to know, just like I did." She started crying, then shouting, "You ruined my life." "No," I said, steady. "You did." And I hung up. The calls started before sunrise the next day. First from Cathy's number, then from unknown ones. I let them ring out. By 9, she had called my business line 3 times, sobbing in one voicemail, screaming in the next. By midweek, it escalated. She showed up at a job site while my crew was installing panels on a community center roof. "Craig," she shouted from the street, "we need to talk right now." My guys froze on the scaffolding, watching her meltdown. I walked down and kept my distance. "You need to leave, Cathy. This is my workplace." Her voice cracked. "You can't just end it like this. We're engaged. We're supposed to be married in 3 weeks." "We were engaged. I ended it. Don't come here again." She glared, then screamed so loudly, "You're making a mistake. Tyler meant nothing." I turned my back and climbed the ladder, letting her rant until one of my crew chiefs calmly said, "Ma'am, you need to go." Eventually, she did. The next morning, my phone buzzed with notifications. Fake reviews online, claims that I stole deposits, that I was abusive, that my company was a scam. Clients started calling, concerned. I spent hours reporting the reviews and sending proof of contracts. That was when I called Mr. Patel, my attorney. I want every incident documented. The reviews, the visits, the calls, everything. A month later, we were in court. Cathy sat with her lawyer, painting herself as the victim. She claimed I was controlling. Patel stood, calm as ever. "Your Honor, here are the time-stamped posts, the harassment calls, the false reviews, and the reports of trespassing incidents." The judge didn't hesitate. Protective order granted. 1 year. Violate it and you'll be arrested. For the first time since Vegas, I finally exhaled. 4 months after the court order, my life finally had rhythm again. Business picked back up once clients realized the smear campaign was noise. We landed a municipal solar contract that kept the crew busy for the rest of the year. My reputation had survived because the evidence spoke louder than her lies. Cathy, on the other hand, couldn't keep the apartment we once shared. Without my half of the rent, it was only a matter of time before she fell behind. Within weeks, she was begging her parents for help, but they turned her away. By the end of the second month, she was gone from the building altogether. Jonathan later told me she'd moved into a run-down one-bedroom on the west side, a place she once swore she'd never live in. Her fallback was Tyler, but that didn't last. He was the same man he'd always been, flashy when it was easy, absent when responsibility showed up. Cathy had gambled everything for him, and he left her broke, alone, and humiliated. While she was burning bridges, I was building new ones. I met Simone Park at a coffee shop. She was grading art projects while I was reviewing job estimates. We struck up a conversation about deadlines, and 2 weeks later, we were having dinner. Simone was different. She owned her condo outright, paid her bills without asking for help, and made it clear from the start she wanted a partnership, not a safety net. The first time I offered to cover dinner, she shook her head. "I've got this one. We'll alternate." It was such a simple thing, but it told me everything. Meanwhile, Cathy hadn't let go. Despite the protective order, she tried to find cracks in it. She sent me a long email. Patel read it first and immediately filed it as a violation. The mail was rambling. Apologies, excuses, promises to change. She slipped in a line about a late period, suggesting she might be pregnant. Patel looked at me across his desk. "She's baiting you. Do not respond." I didn't. Jonathan confirmed to me privately that there was no pregnancy. Cathy had told the same story to him, and when he pressed for proof, she admitted she'd lied. One evening, I finally showed Simone the loft. We climbed the stairs to the roof. She looked around quietly, then said, "You built this with your own hands?" She smiled, not greedy, not calculating, just impressed. "That's incredible. It feels like you built it for yourself, not to impress anyone." That one line hit me harder than she knew. She was right. For the first time in years, I realized the loft wasn't about proving something to Cathy. It was about proving something to myself. By late summer, the loft felt alive. I invited a few people over, Martin, some of my crew, and Simone. They came with food and congratulations. We clinked bottles. Later, when everyone had left, I pulled out a small brass plaque I'd once had made during the renovations. It was engraved with both our names, meant to be mounted by the front door when Cathy and I moved in. I set it on the workbench, stared at it for a long minute, then unscrewed the plate. In its place, I fixed a new one. This one engraved with my mother's name. She was the reason I pushed, the reason I refused to end up broke and helpless again. She deserved to be honored. Standing there under the city lights, I realized something. Discipline and planning hadn't just saved me from ruin. They had given me freedom. Cathy chose chaos. I chose calm. And in the end, that choice made all the difference. Thank you for watching.